America first forever. We will not surrender to the globalists.
We will not back down!
USA! USA, you damn well better know it. We must change our educational system. It has failed completely. We are not sheep. We will not be sheep. We will not surrender our freedom. We bring power back to the people.
You're listening to Thought Villains with Derrick Gibson and Cara Castronuova.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Thought Villains. We are here today with my co-host, Cara Castronuova. I heard you was in D.C. standing up for the political prisoner, Joe Biden, this weekend.
Joe Biden's political prisoners. Yes, Chris and I were there this weekend. Sorry you couldn't make it. I know that you have prior engagements with running for governor. That's important. Right. But we were down there in D.C. There was a rally this weekend in front of D.C. jail where we stood out there. You could show some pictures, Natalie. This is just a couple of shots that we took at the end of us. It was me, my brother Randy, who's a frequent guest on the show. We were there with Look Ahead America, which is an organization that is really been active in doing these protests for the political prisoners. So that's just our little pictures that we took after the rally was over. But the reason it's interesting, because behind us, if you look to the far, if you could show the picture of the window, Natalie, if you look to the far, we're going to show a picture of the window where we actually were outside of the prisoners' windows. Yeah. They could see us. We specifically chose this spot. It was next to the congressional cemetery because we know that's where their windows were. And one of the guys we knew was going to hang that orange and blue. You could see it right there if you look really closely in that middle window shirt. So we would know where they were. We saw them sticking their hands at the windows, I guess, before the corrections officers kind of put a stop to that. But they saw us. They totally saw us out there, which was nice. I think that they were probably really happy to see that there were people out there showing them love and supporting them. It was a really good experience. Still, the problem is attendance. People are still afraid to come out to these events because the FBI has so terrorized the United States, you know.
Right. The FBI have put the freeze on a lot of things. You know, we used to blanket Washington, D.C. Before the November 3rd election and after the November 3rd election. After January 6th, people are afraid to go out now, afraid to show their face. They think it's forbidden to be in D.C., which it's not. We need more people to come out and stand up just like you did, Cara and Christoper. If we get the people to stand up, get thousands of people to descend on D.C., we can really get some things done and get these guys released. As you know, we got this young lady in Congress, Miss Beatty, that led a protest into the Capitol, and she was set free.
Yeah, so it's always double standard. What's her name? I know I don't even pay attention to these Democrats because I could barely stand them. And that's not nice to say. I love a lot of Democrats. I have a lot of friends that are Democrats, but some of them it's just hypocrisy. So Joyce Beatty, right? She led a protest in the Capitol, and she actually said she wanted to get arrested. I know that.
Right, and this is after the so-called January 6th insurrection and the rules been changed. And then a congressperson actually goes outside and invite people to come in and protest. But they did get arrested, but it was immediately released. So look at the double standards of the January 6th people led into the Capitol by the police and maybe Antifa. And they are still in jail. You can even call a prisoner because they're no bond and they got to sit down until they can get out on court. And the purpose of that is to make them plead guilty, because if I was in now also, and I've been in that 6 months for something, just walking in the Capitol taking picture, I would plead out to a lesser deal also. And so this is what the Justice Department want, and they basically getting it because everybody want to get out, everybody want their freedom. I guess some of these guys will get out and try to fight for their freedom after the fact instead of staying there a year or two before a trial come up. So I can understand what is going on, but it's a two-tier justice system. This is why I was not there. I was in this state of New York City. I was campaigning so we can straighten New York State out itself. As you know, we got political prisoners here, the former Proud Boys that's locked up for absolutely no reason. So I was campaigning in upstate Glen Falls, New York, and out in Long Island, while you all was in D.C. And I wish I could have been there because this is very important to me, myself also.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, what did you think of the whole experience?
I thought it was a great experience. Like I said, of course, the turnout was, a little lower than, we should have had because, what we put in to promote it and get it out there.
Right. It was. I'm not going to cut you off. I'm going to let you continue, but I just want you to know that the guy who's promoting, I mean, this was shared on I think throughout Twitter, at least hundreds of thousands of times people saw this flyer. It just goes to show how afraid people are to show up to these events, which is ridiculous. We're here and we're alive to tell the story. We didn't get arrested. We're fine. We're here. But people are very afraid.
Yeah, they are. And that's unfortunate. And this is what the problem I have with just the right, the GOP on all levels, all the way from grassroots all the way up to the top, is where's the backbone? Like, you got to have some fight, man. And we make fun of left so much. Oh, they're beta males, they're soy boys, all this stuff like that. But these beta male and soy boys are getting on the streets. They make one phone call to have the whole block covered with Antifa or whatever Black Lives Matter group they want to have. And we just sit back and we meme and make fun of them, which is, I enjoy memeing. Everybody knows I'm a good troll. Don't get me wrong now. But at the end of the day, I'll hit the streets in a heartbeat. I'll get out there and get it done. And there's people out there that'll tell you for the last 3 years, they see me in all kinds of events, getting my voice heard, getting in Black Lives Matter's faces, Antifa's faces. And I'm not telling people to do it exactly the way I'm doing it, but I'm just telling you that you can make some serious change if you just, one person. People don't realize what one person can do. I was just a guy doing walkaway videos for Brandon Strzok, went viral. And it went from that to now I got the Conservative Republican Alliance that I founded. And we've done rallies with over 300 people there. And I was just one person at the beginning. And the only reason I started that group because so many people were reaching out to me in the comment section saying, Chris, how can I get involved? Chris, I thought I was the only conservative out here in New York, man. And now I got so much of that feedback that I said, let's get this together and really bring change. And we all can do that. If we work together, like I said, united we stand. I keep telling them I'm starting my movement, united we stand movement. If we get these American people on the right together, we will change this country, starting with New York.
Right, I agree. And hopefully that we'll get a chance to go back to D.C. and more people come that won't be afraid after they seen y'all didn't get arrested or whatever. I would definitely try to make my schedule so I can be there. I would love to speak there, speak out what is right, because we have all of us has the right to redress our fair government. That's just a right we have. And then from looking at that so-called January insurrection where police was inviting people in, I mean, it's ridiculous. A total setup. That's all it was. So we got to push back and push back hard.
Well, can we'll show you a little clip from the video on Twitter. This is illustrating this video that we're going to play on Twitter. And it got a lot of shares. And you got to hear some of the hate on there. But, of course, if you watched, we were all cheering because we could hear, we saw them waving at us. We started chanting, "Let them go." Yep. Let them go.
Yeah, that was a
trying to make sure they could hear us. I think they did hear us, from what I understand.
Yeah, that was a great idea.
Yeah. It was pretty cool. It was so hot out. It was sweltering hot out. Yeah, so you could. So then after that, we spoke, and there was some singing of patriotic songs. People were singing "Amazing Grace," trying to make the people hear. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
it
was.
Speaking, Derrick, of you said you hope that you could speak at DC. Well, it's not in DC, but this weekend you're speaking at a rally on the 25th. Natalie, can you show that flyer and encouraging people to come hear Derrick and many other great speakers speak that day about political persecution? Should have a good turnout. Like, I'm really hoping, Chris and Derrick, that more people show up for this than the prior rallies. As you could see the lineup, more people are responding. We have John Tobacco from Newsmax. He has his own new show right now coming out Saturday nights. I'm actually going to be on the panel of that show. Hopefully it's a regular thing if they like me enough. We have Scott Lobato. He's awesome. As you all know, he's famous for the Governor Cuomo, like eating the heart of New York painting. We love that painting. Scott's going to be there, and he's lending us his gigantic Nancy Pelosi, the evil, like she just looks like the Wicked Witch of the West right there, ripping up, shredding the Constitution, which she has done, and she's continuing to shred it with this new bootleg January 6th committee that she's using to continue to persecute and witch hunt Americans, completely partisan. She's just definitely not welcome at the event unless it's a poster like that. And we have all these other great patriots, attorneys, two attorneys. One represents one of the January 6th guys, and Joe Murray, he was a former GOP candidate for Queens Queens County candidate for district attorney, former NYPD. Just some really great, Ian Smith. The two guys from Matt's Public House, it's like a who's who of New York activists. You know what I mean? It's going to be a lot of fun. Chris is going to be live streaming. Maybe you want to say a few words there, Chris, too.
Yeah, of course,
it's going to be great. And Derrick, obviously, you spoke at the first one. Right. And we had a decent turnout. Do you think the turnout's going to be better this time around?
I think the turnout is going to be better because a lot of attention have been brought to this January 6th so-called insurrection and the way our freedom are being taken away. I have a lot to say, so please show up. I want you to hear what I got to say. I'm never afraid. I speak out. I speak my mind. And I have a God-given right to do that and a constitutional right, and I always exercise those rights. So please come out. This is going to be great. It's going to be very informative, and we just got to keep pushing, Cara.
Yeah, it is. That's true. And also, I was going to say that I I know it's hard for people to fathom that Trump's not around right now to be your leader. It's really hard. It was hard for me to come to grips with that. And I just feel like the right doesn't turn up unless they kind of get Trump's okay. Trump, I guess, he's given the okay. He's given the wink, wink. He's talking about the January 6th protests. I mean, and the persecution. So it's time to come out. But we shouldn't need that. Do you know what I'm saying, Chris and Derrick?
Of course.
Like, what came out of, I think, the MAGA movement is like something that we all learned about ourselves, that we all want to be activists and that we all have this living inside us. While it would be great to have Trump and have a leader, like right now we have to find it within ourselves to have the strength to come out to these things. And I'm really encouraging people out there, right now we have to be our own Trump, if that makes sense. We all have to get out there and fight for our people. This is like kind of what we learned through Trump. And right now, he's kind of sitting on the sidelines. Hopefully he'll make a comeback. If he does or doesn't, we still have to we have to stand up and come up to the plate and fight for America first.
And that's how a movement works. Any movement in history is done like that. There's no movement where it started by one man and a man has to stay alive forever for the movement to continue. Like, it's just, I tell people all the time, when Trump was in office, if he gets 4 years, if he gets 8 years, after Trump is out of office, we got to continue this on afterwards. So I was telling people before the last election, I feel Trump, if they do it fair and square, Trump's going to win by a landslide. He's going to crush it. I'm pretty sure he's going to win California for sure. New York was the one that was a toss-up for me. Is he going to win New York? But California, he had in the bag. But he got screwed over. They stole the election. We get it. But they have the audits going on. There's things going on in that department now that are getting checked and balanced. So that's good to go. But that we can't depend on Trump. He's one man, and he's his man. The only person we can fully depend on is God. So I never go in anything with just looking at one man and saying this is how we got to continue. This is one man determines it. We have to come together and really make some real change and just really
and that's what I say, Chris. I've been saying this for a while. I was like, President Trump is one man. He started this movement by exposing the wickedness of our government, and that's why they're so pissed off. I said, don't just depend on President Trump to be there for you. What you gonna do when President Trump leave? Take what President Trump showed you and you run with. You become a leader yourself. We need leaders all over the country following the Trump. I would say the Trump doctrine, because the Trump doctrine is America first, and he went in there and he showed us how corrupt our government being. And me and you, as a black man, Chris, we already knew these things, and we've been screaming this all our life, but they never listened to us. Now they took them same tactics and use them on a white man, not only a white man, but the president of the United States of America and the free world. It exposed the wickedness and the crooked things they've been doing all the while through the Justice Department. I have no faith, no trust in the Justice Department, none whatsoever. And I can't. From this point, all I see is all of that need to be abolished and things need to be started over again. So people got to get out. You got to get out on your own and start speaking. If you start doing that, others will come out and follow you, like Chris when he came out in New York City. He absolutely turned New York City upside down. You saw nobody with Trump had shirts, flags, and nothing. Chris came out, I came out, and then after that, people just start to follow. These are things that we got to do to wake everybody up in our nation, Cara.
Right. It's like resurrecting, like I know this sounds cheesy, but let's resurrect the spirit of Trump. Yeah. Let's bring them to these events like on the 25th and events like the ones that you hold. And it's literally up to us. And I wanted we thought of something over the weekend, a new catchphrase that we were going to use, which was what? Defund the... defund the Capitol Police.
Defund the Capitol Police.
Defund the Capitol Police.
How did I forget that?
Let's talk about defunding the Capitol Police. So what's so interesting, this is what we discovered over the weekend, we were driving down to D.C., it was a long drive, there was traffic, and we were Googling. Evil Googling. Go on DuckDuckGo, not Google. I'm not trying to do advertising for Google. But we found out, because we're thinking of filing some Freedom of Information Acts to find out what really happened on January 6th, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But we found out that the Capitol Police actually don't have to answer Freedom of Information Acts, which is really unusual. Every government bureau really has to answer to a Freedom of Information Act, which is a journalist or a citizen that asks for information. You put in a specific format, you submit it to the government, and they should give you answers. Like, for example, we all witnessed a video of a man falling from a balcony on January 6th. He was pushed by police. He fell to what a lot of people say was his death. People attest to that, eyewitnesses. There's video. We want to know what happened to this man. How could we find out that information? File a Freedom of Information Act with Capitol Police. So we looked into it, then come to find out that they don't have to answer Freedom of Information Acts because they're part of the legislature. They're the protection of the Secret Service basically for the legislature, and the legislature doesn't have to answer Freedom of Information Acts. I think that's really unusual. Right. And it comes around to this point, Derrick, which is that I found that while they're defunding the police in the rest of the country, they're refunding the Capitol Police because they're trying to put branches in California and in Florida right now. And they're basically not subject to the same rules that the rest of the police are. What do you think of that?
Right. And It's absolutely up to the governors of these states and the legislature whether or not to accept these Capitol Police. Now, if I was the governor of New York State, I would not accept that. I would assess even the FBI here. I will assess that with a very fine tooth comb, and I will make a decision. Do I really want you on my soil? Do I really want you terrorizing and harassing my citizens? These things have got to be looked at from that point of view, and you got to make a decision. You're going to either say, excuse my French, screw the federal government, and I'm going to run my own state, which you have a right to do that. That's why it's separate from the federal government. But in that case, the federal government said, well, we're not going to give you this fund, we're not going to give you those funds. And then, the governor's kind of weakened down. But, your state can be successful if you be good stewards of the taxpayer dollar of your state. You really don't need the federal government. And these things that our governors need to stand up and take a good look at it and remove these people that are harassing our citizens. They cross all over the United States. They come into your state and harass citizens, but actually the governor can stop that. You can put a stop to that. That don't have to be. The FBI don't have to trample into your state, arrest none of your citizens. We as a people can put a stop to that. And yes, the Capitol Police need to be accountable to the people. What group or institution do we have that's not accountable to the people? That's nuts. It's crazy.
That's how you get a hierarchy.
Very interesting. And we're going to try to, it's like an idea that I've been rolling around in my head, and I'll talk more about this. I think I'm going to announce it maybe at the rally next week. We the people want to do our own January 6th investigation. And that is what we are going to do. I'm going to
real
make
investigation,
it happen.
not the
It's going to be a real
Pelosi
investigation. We're going to start collecting signatures, but we don't even need the signatures. People want this to happen, and we're going to do it. And it starts, obviously, we need to file Freedom of Information Act. That's why we want to know what happened. And look, I'm not here to spread any type of misinformation or what idiots call conspiracy theories, but I'm here to ask questions. I want to ask questions. I want to know what happened to the other 3 people besides Ashley Babbitt. And I'm not talking about Sick Nick, the police officer. There's 3 other people that were reported to die that day. One, a stroke. The other one, I think they said a heart attack. Another one, a drug overdose. Wow. I don't think that this is, they never really released enough information about that. I, as a citizen, want to know more. Maybe they very well died of a stroke or heart attack randomly in the middle of the day, coincidentally, and a drug overdose. But there's been eyewitnesses, like I've said, and Citizens Against Political Persecution has been investigating this, that have said otherwise, that they actually saw Roseanne Boyle get initially pushed down by police. Capitol Police, and struck her head, and that's how she died. And then other people were around her, and they tried to use that video saying people trampled her, or they smeared her forever and said she OD'd from methamphetamines. That is disgusting. And the news covered this for a brief period of time right after the event. They wrote little blurbs on each person that died, and that was the end of it. Case closed, investigation closed. No, we want that investigation reopened.
Right, and that's a good idea. Let's do this citizen panel, and let's do this investigation. They plenty of people. I know plenty of attorneys. Even I myself, I would take part in the investigation. Because this is very important. We need to know. We don't need nothing swept under the rug at all. Not only for Trump supporters, it can happen to liberals, Democrats. It shouldn't happen to absolutely nobody. Everybody should have their freedom to redress a failed government. And I'm sure we're on the same page. We have a failed USA government. It's total, and it's been failed. And President Trump just woke us up to how it was going. Mm-hmm. So we had a right to do that. You have a constitutional right. You have a God-given right to do these things. So let's get it done. Let's do this. Let's not talk about it. Let's actually put this thing in place. Let's get volunteers, attorneys, and everybody else to join in with us and get this thing rolling. And
trust me when I tell you, there's going to be a lot of people that want to volunteer for something like this. We have already gotten so many calls for Citizens Against Political Persecution for people that want to volunteer and being put to work. But we're gonna. I think it's going to be awesome. Chris, I know that you mentioned that you would want to be a part of it, and I just think it's a counter to Nancy Pelosi's fake January 6th committee that she is doing through the House of Representatives, which we all know is not going to tell the truth. It is not going to reveal anything that she did wrong, any type of negligence or malice that would, as you guys know,
and that's what we should be investigating. Why weren't the National Guard there? Why weren't the backup police there? We had plenty of security options. So to help people from breaking into the Capitol, or not help stop people from supposedly breaking into the Capitol, but they didn't do that. And then you see the video footage of them letting the barricades down beforehand, a Capitol officer waving people to come in. Anybody who's military or in the police force who's guarded any kind of area for a period of time knows the last thing you do if you're guarding the area is let down the barricades and wave people to come in and cause a mob, like a mob kind of aspect from letting all these people run in at one time. That's like the very worst thing you possibly do. And that's what they did during the elections with the Electoral College right then at all times to do that. At that most important time, you let it happen. Come on, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So we need to find out why that happened and who was behind it. Forget the police officer, Capitol Police. Before that, there's people who are responsible for handling that situation who didn't handle it. Why didn't they handle that situation? And who are the congressmen involved?
And
Yes.
I mean, do you think, Derrick, that Nancy Pelosi would be actually honest if she does her committee, like with this stuff, or she's going to just witch hunt Trump supporters?
Of course not. You know the answer to that already. Everything is so partisan, so it absolutely won't be. Take for instance, after the Arizona audit hearing came out on Monday, Ted Lieu, Adam Schiff, all the why there's no sign of any fraud in the election. I was like, really? But we looking at the hearing, we hearing it, we seeing things that went on, and they comes out and say that. So of course they not going to be honest. So but this is a pivotal time in history for us to do what we need to do so we can assure the freedom and safety of our children so they don't have to go through this stuff. We have to be bold enough to take this on now and change things over. The government's supposed to be accountable to us, not us accountable to the government. Let's push back and let's take this thing over and put it like our founding fathers designed it to be.
Yeah.
I agree.
And what do you guys think of the guys from the Lincoln Project? This guy, what's his name? Steve Schmidt. And I guess the founder of that was Kellyanne Conway, his husband, who hated Trump.
Right.
Saying that January 6th was worse than 9/11. And FYI, they spent more money on this investigation of January 6th than they've ever spent in the government history.
Yeah, that's a spit in the face to even the victims of 9/11 and the Pentagon, Philadelphia. That's the straight just spit in the face of that. That was nowhere near on the scale of that. But what was near on the scale of that is BLM summer of last year, 2020. Now, that was on the scale of 9/11.
That's a debate to have.
Right. And that was on the scale of 9/11, and nobody doing absolutely nothing about it. This simply walking into the Capitol, taking pictures, waving,
Taking selfies with some of the Capitol officers.
in the people's house, and it's worse than 9/11. Come on. I mean, it's crazy and pathetic. They think we're stupid.
Well, that's why I'm so upset with the leftists. They just throw words around. Like, they throw Hitler, they throw Nazi, they throw, it's worse than 9/11. It's like, stop just throwing these words out there to see what sticks. That's so stupid you do that. You are discrediting what happened in the history. And they want to discredit the history because they want to erase the history so they can make their own history and make their own path in the future. That's what they're doing. So I'm just sick and tired of leftists always using these tactics of just throwing these crazy, dramatic phrases or words that knows going to get people's attention, but not really mean anything. They just want to get attention so they can probably take your attention away from something else that they're doing behind people's backs.
Well, we're going to wrap up the subject of January 6th. I know it's one of my favorite topics to talk about because I am bent set on finding the truth. I think we could end it at saying that, and then before we move on to the next topic, that we are going to get to the bottom of the truth. We, the people, will. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how much time I have to put into it. I don't care, literally, if I'm like living off a cup of noodles, literally, like to find out the truth about what happened on January 6th, because you have literally smeared the American people. You've smeared the patriots, called them insurrectionists, called them domestic terrorists. And I think that that is so wrong. And I think that we have to, before they continue to, they literally rewrote history. They're rewriting history. God only knows 10 years from now if we were to look up a history book, or say 100 years. If we were to go 100 years into the future and read about what they say about January 6th, how it was this insurrection on the Capitol, called by the President of the United States, terrorists. They're just going to make up lies, and it is up to us right here and right now to reverse these lies, to stop them in their tracks telling these lies, and to do our own investigations. We, the people, have to find out what the truth is. We want to know what happened to those people that died that day, that supposedly died of natural causes. We want to know what Nancy Pelosi and the Democrat Party's involvement was in this. We want to know if there was FBI infiltration that incited all of these riots. That's what we want to know. We're going to get to the bottom of it, and we're all three going to do it together with the help of the American people. So, let's talk about critical race theory. And Derrick, I'm going to let you start with that.
Critical race theory. Wow. Insanity. Pushing hate. Reverse discrimination. Critical race theory being pushed off into our school system on our children. What we're doing is we're going backwards from where we came with racism and all that. Now we're doing reverse racism. We're teaching our children, 6, 7, 8-year-old children, that you are oppressed. Right out of the gate, I'm going to tell the black kid, you're oppressed. What kind of nonsense is that? Wow. But what is happening that I spoke to a couple of teachers, and they said what we do is we sit the black kids on one side of the room, white kids on the other side of the room. We tell the black kids, you the oppressed group, and we tell the white kids, you the oppressor. And then we let them talk You know,
Oh my God! Like,
out.
let's reenact the Civil War.
Right.
So sick.
Right. That is actually going on in the school system in New York, right here in New York City.
Poor kids, they're torturing them.
Right,
It's
right.
child abuse.
Oh man,
It's
they are ruining
insanity.
childhood, man. That's what they're trying to do.
Critical
man.
race theory has no place nowhere. We don't need that. We're going backwards. We are not going forward. And the world is laughing at us. I mean, it's insanity. BLM pushing their agenda in the school system. I mean, it's just unbelievable the things that are going on. But as governor, the first day I would cancel that out. CRT would not be taught in the state of New York in no public school, none whatsoever. And these are the things that I would do. I'm bold enough to stand up and do these things in light of the pushback. I mean, I'll do those things because it makes absolutely no sense. We shouldn't teach hate at all just because you're white or I'm black. That makes me less equal to you or whatever. I'll give you a little background about me. You know, I went through high school in the South. I'm a New Yorker, but I went to high school in the South. And everybody got along just fine, just well. It was whites, blacks, Mexicans, all got along with. There was none of the ignorance that is going on now. But I won a scholarship. I got me a degree in automotive technology. I left there, I did very well, worked for a few companies. I'm a UAW member. I've been through that. So then after that, later on in life, I went back to school and got me a degree in criminal justice. So nobody was standing at the college door or at the technical college saying, Derrick, you can't come in here and get this education because you're black. So if you oppress, that means you're oppressing yourself. You doing it yourself, you're incarcerating the mind. That's only in the
victimhood
individual.
mentality.
Yeah, I
Victimhood
can't imagine. Like, I would ask you, Chris, like, you know, if you're a little kid, and I don't know what, like, when you were a little kid, I'm not gonna, like, I'm assuming it was in the 80s when I was a little kid,
Yeah,
right?
80s babies.
Were they doing this in the 80s? Like, if you're telling a little kid you're oppressed, isn't that going to kind of create a mental handicap?
Yeah, no, it definitely will. I mean, growing up, I tell people all the time, like, it was a gift the way I grew up. I grew up in, like, I was born on a military base in Hinesville, Georgia. But, you know, we moved around 2 different states, Kentucky, Alabama, Mississippi. But that was my toddler years. I don't remember none of that. My earliest memories in life is flying to Europe on a plane because it was a long trip. So I kind of remember that, like, long trip experience. And living in Germany, we lived in a military base over there. There's 2 at the time. I think one's no longer there, but it was Baumholder and Mannheim. And my neighbors were, you know, Asians, you know, blacks, whites, Hispanics. Like, and I, as a kid, I thought growing up with all these different races and everything was just life. That's humanity. It's just the way God made us. You know, it's not a big deal. So I really didn't have to deal with like these race situations until I got older, like later middle school, early high school, when these, you know, growing up in near Baltimore, a Democrat ran state, they were putting these whole, oh, you're oppressed because of this and white privilege and all these terms. I looked my whole life. I'm like, okay, I'm 20-something years old, and now you're telling me I'm oppressed? Like, I've never been oppressed. I've been coming in first place in different sporting events, getting job interviews over other people. My dad was the highest ranked officer on a military base. I never in my life looked at anybody like they were better or more privileged than me. I think, to me, when you admit that you're a victim, you admit you lost. And I never lost. I don't like losing.
And
like
you mentioned in the car this weekend that you thought it was funny. You said whenever you say you always get a job interview, when
Always.
whenever the first interview they give him the job. So I mean, you know, that's
I use my black privilege for that. I want to say that too loud. I keep that to myself. That's why it's so white privilege. I'm like, don't show this privilege talk, man.
And you know, I try not to like get too involved with the you know, with the Asian hate stuff because I'm very. It's just any narrative that's being pushed by the left, I'm suspicious of. You know, I do think the Asian people have been bullied. I do think they get bullied in general. But I think if the left is pushing the narrative, I'm wondering why. So that's just me. And I also don't like to be. I don't like to be considered a victim. I fight back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, me
like
too,
when
yeah.
I see like stuff like about Asian hate, I'm just like I just don't want to fall into that trap of being looked at like a victim. You know what I mean? That's just me.
It's funny that you say it because I sent a tweet out earlier today. I was like, anything the left say, it must be good for America. Somebody rushed me a Proud Boy application over. That's a tweet I sent out today. So if from now on anything they say is bad, I'm going to try to join up with that.
Yeah. And you're seeing by how they're acting, like what a lot of times when they're pointing their finger out and they're accusing you of is what they're secretly doing.
Right, exactly.
Like, I've been hearing this Nazi Gestapo talk, and I didn't want to hear it because I'm like, leave that to the people who actually had to deal with that. But they've been bringing up these last 4 years under the Trump presidency. But now that Biden's in office, the only people I see acting like the Gestapo are the Democrats. Right. I mean, they got people knocking on people's doors asking to get vaccine shots. I mean, the last time I heard about that in history was, you know, back in the beginning of the Gestapo with the Nazi youth and everything like that, where he brought it in the way. It's like, oh, no, we're here to help. We're here to help you guys out. This is a good thing. It starts out that way. But then when they got you yoked up and they're taking you away to a foreign camp somewhere, then it's a little too late to say anything.
Yeah, and it's not too far from
But
happening.
I want to ask you, Cara, you're Asian. And you heard all the talk about, well, the white people attacking the Asian white people. Have you seen any white people attacking the Asian? Like every attack that I have seen up here in New York is attacked by black people.
Well,
So
I just find
what
it
is going
interesting
on?
how they're saying it. Like it, I mean, like listen, I guess I have to deeply analyze and make the connection in my head how it's connected to white supremacy. Like so that's what they're saying. And like I said before, just to clarify, like. Anything the left is pushing, I'm suspicious of in the modern day. So when the left is telling, like, do we, like, as like, I'm Asian, you guys are black, it's like, I don't believe for a second that the powers that be, the deep state, the elitists, care about us all of a sudden. All of a sudden, Black Lives Matter. All of a sudden, Asian lives matter. Give me a break. Like, I find that very, very, very suspicious that all of a sudden they're acting like they care about us. They need us for something.
Oh,
you know what I mean? They need us for
Of
something.
course, it needs for votes usually. Every time you see them usually acting this way, it's usually around election season. That's when it, or they're
Well,
trying
Chris,
to push
I would
some
go
kind of
even
agenda.
further than that. What they are really doing is they causing chaos. They causing division. Why they enact a wicked communist socialist agenda in America. They want us looking the other way. And one thing about it, once we all in an uproar, all of us, like Biden talking about bringing the UN in there, talking about studying reparation, I'm like, what the hell? But what they want to do is, once they usher that in, communism and socialism, then they're going to say, we got tyranny out here. We need the police to use the police to UN, everybody else, the military to crack down, and everybody going to be locked down.
Yep.
This is their plan.
And the first one to be taken out are going to be the useful idiots, these freaking radical leftists out here that are just beta male soy boys who are rioting and looting, thinking they're somehow a part of the revolution against the establishment when the establishment is funding them. So if that, God forbid, a communist takeover ever happens, they're going to be the first ones lined up and shot in the back of the head. We no longer need
I
you
agree.
anymore.
Yeah.
It's sad.
So, I mean, back to the whole critical race theory thing. For me, again, like it comes back to if the left is pushing it, it's bad. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. It's just like, I'm sorry. That's just the way I feel. It's a way to, for me, it seems like it's just been a really divisive topic. I don't have kids that are school children age. So for me, it's just what I'm hearing from parents and how against they are of critical race theory and what they're telling me. And I feel like they're doing it in such a sneaky way. They're sliding it into the curriculum. They're not really, making the parents aware of it, and they're calling it. I spoke to a teacher. They're calling it in a lot of schools equity and inclusion. Like that sounds great. Like who wouldn't want
the liberal words
right?
love to use.
Equity and inclusion. So they're sliding it in, and a lot of parents don't even know it's going on. You asked a lot of parents in New York. I've asked them, "Do you know what critical race theory is?" And a lot of them are like, "No," because they're doing it so sneakily, from what I understand.
Right, but I take that a step further. Critical race theory, they fighting and just keeping it in school, teaching school. And then outside, then you hear these same liberals say, we need to take statues down in history, Jefferson statue, all that. So if you want to take history down, why are you teaching this happened in the past? If they speak with a forked tongue, just listen at them. You want to teach about critical race theory, what happened to blacks in the past. Then on the other hand, you say we shouldn't embrace history. We should remove it. Remove the statues. Remove these books. That book. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense what is going on.
And you say sneaking in, exactly. And I totally agree. And they say, you mentioned sneaking it in. And I got a roommate of mine, who's, a good friend of mine as well. And he is, got a couple degrees in law degrees. And we talking a lot deep about politics and everything like that. And we got on the subject about critical race theory. And he told me like where it comes from. He said it's been around for quite a bit of time, but it was used in like the courtroom pretty much.
Right.
So something that was used in the courtroom, and anybody knows anything about, I'm not a lawyer myself or anything, but I know enough by just dealing with friends who are lawyers and seeing how the games they play, and all the one little word will trip you up, and then now you're found guilty because, all this little technical stuff they do in the courthouse. They were using that in that kind of setting. So when they brought it out, it was like to somehow flip over and help somebody out with, oh, by the way, did you know this little, so something that complicated and that, used in that kind of setting is something now they're teaching the kids in first grade and kindergarten. Like that makes absolutely no sense. What they're trying to do is they're trying to like just demoralize children. They're trying to destroy childhood, in my opinion, because you're taking things that are in the courthouse to teach them like it's like a ABC 1, 2, 3, like a Barney video or something. And then you got these grown men in dresses twerking and stuff like that at student story time or whatever. I'm like, so everywhere you look, it's like, where's the childhood? Even on TV, you don't even see cartoons anymore. You got kid shows. It's like, so everywhere you look is, and they're doing this to destroy childhood, destroy the family structure, destroy the family unit, and create their own entity. It's a bunch of NPC zombies is what they want to do. So if they get attacked and destroy the children, then that's a very good beginning right there, doing that.
That is so sad, but we got to stop it. We got to stand up and say enough is enough. What you need to do is petition the school board, go to the school board meeting, elect people with common sense that gonna get in there and turn this thing around. But I, as governor, once again, I'll dissolve the Board of Education. It's a disaster. It has served past its time. It's time to put it back in the hand of the civilian through each township or through each county. As governor, I would definitely do it. The Board of Education will have to go. It serves no purpose anymore. I mean, it's past its time.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why we got back America First candidates. That's one
definitely.
of the key goals for me to CRA is to get out there and support these candidates, and especially here in New York, who are America First. They're not coming in there. They don't got a dog in the fight. They're not lifelong politicians, hardcore rhino Republicans or far leftists, radical leftists or anything like that. They're regular everyday people, everyday middle-class Americans that work hard and, have families and go to church and just do everything that typical Americans used to do all the time. Now they're running for office. And Trump was a big part of that because he represented that on the business side of things. Like he wasn't, of course he did his thing in business. Now, don't get me wrong, the man's a multi-billionaire, but still he was an everyday kind of guy. We always knew that about Trump. And he ran for presidency, got the presidency. Now it's time for us to do it on a local level as everyday American citizens. We can do what Trump did. Don't think that, it's impossible. Really, if you guys get out there and do your best and try, you'd be amazed at what can happen.
Right. So speaking of the state of New York, as the vaccine, they're saying 70% of the people are vaccinated or more, which I don't think is true. They like to lie about those numbers. But Derrick, you were mentioning also pertaining to schools that something you were talking to the teachers and with the children being vaccinated.
Right. Yeah. So what it is, I assume this is the union pushing the nonsense because they already didn't want the teachers to go back in the classroom. I just want them to sit at home and, work remotely from the house, which is bad for the children to get no social exercise, no nothing, with their peers. But yes, this is issues that is going on now in the state of New York now. They want to force the children to get vaccinated to protect the grown-up teachers.
Right, that's pathetic.
I was like, it's unheard of.
It's like endangering the students to protect teachers that are unhealthy. Like I heard a story firsthand from a teacher. She's a teacher in the New York City school, but she sends her kids to private school. She will not send her because she knows. And she told me that one of the health exemptions, and you could look this up, for the teachers that they're saying that they could get COVID and they can't come to work is obesity, which fine. I know about that. It is a disease. I'll admit that obesity is a disease, but smoking, if you're a smoker, you cannot, that's an excuse not to come back to work because you're more at risk for COVID if you smoke. So teachers that are smokers were saying, well, I can't come back to work because I'm a smoker. And that was a legitimate reason for them not to come back to work. It was an acceptable health reason for them not to come back.
That's the union pushing.
And the union is good. The union is crazy, man.
Right. So vaccinate children so you could smoke.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
What the hell?
I'm telling you, I shout out to my friend Alad from Barely Informed on YouTube, man. He's a great patriot. He goes to both sides of rallies, the left and the right. And I was helping out during the quarantine because he has, I guess, Democratic cameramen that were helping him out, and they're too beta to go outside because of the mask and gloves or whatever. So I went out there and helped him out. And I went to one event for a Left's event, and it was for the teacher. This is right in the heart of the quarantine, like July, August timeframe. And they were out there protesting about like not going back to school as teachers. Like they did not want to go back to school. They're out there yelling and screaming. They look crazy. And I was like, these are like teachers. And the stuff they were saying and I'm like, how in the world? I was thinking, watching this, like, how are we going to ever go back to having school being normal the way it was in the past again? Because these teachers are going to, I can tell the way they were fighting, and I know that a lot of them probably far leftists and radical way of thinking. How are we going to convince these people to go back into school and act like normal teachers and just go to school and just be teachers? They're going to, if they give them a chance to play victim or cry and make a scene, they're going to do it. And they were out there just acting foolish, crying about every little thing. I'm like, man, they're going to take this to the, I tell you, give the left the inch to take the whole football field, and this is what's going to happen right now with this.
Right, and the pushing of that vaccination in kids, like the study came out and say, it had inflaming the hearts of children, of the young people that were taking it. I mean, that's insane, and it's against your religious rights, and also against your constitutional right. They can't actually study natural law, and you'll see these things. They can't force you to do this, that, or whatever. I mean, if you don't want to take the vaccine, they say, well, it's for the greater good of the community. Okay, then, well, Derrick, you can't be in this classroom, whatever. I'd be just fine with that, but I'm not taking the vaccine. But don't force me to take anything, especially something that is experimental, it's not approved by the FDA. It's experimental
And
stuff.
how many drugs are now illegal drugs that people use to get wasted and pass out in the middle of the street were given back in the day to little kids and stuff like that. That's like because they had no clue what the damage could be. So when something's new introduced to the public, especially if it hasn't been tested, 30 years from now, that could be something that's a deadly drug, and we know that 30 years later, afterwards, we have people die from it in droves, and now we know better. So that's why I'm like looking at this like, so why is this the one vaccine that we're just supposed to trust all of a sudden?
Right, and the government pushing it so hard.
Right.
Oh, we'll give you this, we'll give you free college, we'll
French
give you a hot
fries.
dog, we'll give you a hamburger.
Okay, I'll take,
a donut.
Well, let's saturate your heart with fat, you know? But if you get the vaccine, it's crazy. Like, literally, they're giving out free French fries with your meal if you show a vaccine card. And at night, I can't even watch TV. Like, I used to love watching Judge Judy. I have, like, a weird, like, liking for her. And Seinfeld. And now, literally, it's so polluted. There's more commercials than there are show. And they're all vaccine commercials. All you see is these talking head doctors. They'll get the token, like, minorities in there, an Asian, a black person, a Spanish person, and an Indian. And they're all sitting there like with the dressed up like doctors. Who even knows if they're real doctors? They look like clowns.
Yes,
and they're basically pushing the vaccine. The vaccine is safe, everybody. Then they have this other horrific commercial with the girl who is like an activist with the megaphone jumping. Have you seen this? Jumping from rooftop to rooftop, screaming about how great the vaccine is.
What?
They're trying so hard to push this vaccine.
I saw the rap video from the guy from our era when we were in high school. It was Juvenile, the rapper, and he had a song and he remixed it with like vaccine, and I only saw it one time. I can't even remember like the lyrics or how it went. I just remember seeing it and just looking at it. I'm like, Juvenile hasn't had a career in like 8 years. They bring him back just to remix a song that was a hit when he was younger with a vaccine.
Right.
And
It's overkill.
I mean,
you got to wonder.
I mean, and people on the left are so quick to talk about, especially as black conservatives, and say, oh, you guys are coons, you guys are Uncle Toms, you guys are bamboozled and all that. But that was one of the most bamboozling looking things I've ever seen in my life.
What about Spike Lee? Did you guys see the Spike Lee commercial? He's like an Uber commercial and he's like delivering food and the vaccine news. I was like, Spike Lee, no way. I thought he was a badass. What the hell? Now, you know what I mean? How much do you think they had to pay him to do that?
Millions.
More.
Millions.
Because they're trying hard for the black community.
Talking about doctors, we got doctors on both sides. We got doctors that been trained, been in the field for 30, 40, 50 years all over the world, and they pushing back against the vaccine and all of this stuff, but they are being silenced, censored. They've been taken out of YouTube, all social media. They don't want you to hear that side. And these are doctors that are trained, but they want us to listen to Bill Gates, that is not a doctor. Dr. Fauci, that's been around for 200 years with sister, what's her name? The Saint sister. I can't think, but he was, back then he was trouble, and the guy is still trouble. Now, but we got these expert doctors and scientists out here that is telling you the danger in taking that vaccine, and they will not let us hear that. They want to label it now as misinformation, but they've been doing it because Twitter took it down, Facebook took them down, the white coat doctors, one of them is my friend, and man, there's so much information, there's so many things out there that we can do with that. We don't have to take the vaccine, and we don't know about it. They don't want us to know about it, and it's crazy, and it's scary. So this is why I say they pushing that vaccine for a reason, to get your DNA, all the tests, whatever. And I just don't trust it myself. Now they saying, world leaders saying, well, you can't go in the supermarket, can't go in the restaurant unless you're vaccinated. In France, the guy said that yesterday or day before yesterday. So it's coming to something eventually like the Bible that I believe in, or the chip itself. You won't be able to buy, sell, and it's coming to that point.
The eye of the beast.
Yeah, it's coming to that point.
And it's so funny because I remember growing up in the church. My dad's a pastor, so I remember hearing this about Revelations and end times. And back then, I thought it was like, of course, I'm into the word now, but when I was younger, I tried it like church, almost like school, like, okay, I have to be here kind of thing.
Right.
So I would hear the Bible, and I would hear it so much I learned it, but I would hear sometimes, I'm like, what the heck are they talking about in the end times? Like, good would be bad, bad would be good. Like,
now we see
the mark of the beast.
Yeah, mark of the beast.
The mark of the beast.
That was like crazy talk to me. And this is, remember, always before the internet as well, when I was thinking like this. So and who would have thought 20 years later, I'm like, now that book is almost 90% correct. Right? And so it's like, how in that quickly did it switch and that flip?
I would say 90% fulfilled, not correct.
Yeah, correct. No, not correct. Yeah, no, we were correct. We would be long gone by now.
Right.
But 90% fulfilled with a lot of the prophecy predicted.
Right.
It's just, to me, it's like the left says like they don't trust elitists, and the elitists are Hollywood elite. They're the politicians. They're the globalists. They're the corporations. How do you not? And they're all pushing this vaccine so hard. How doesn't it make you suspicious then? Like, what kind of street smarts do you have if you're not suspicious? Like, I have street smarts. I think I have street smarts.
You do.
And I'm seeing Hollywood, and I'm seeing billion-dollar corporations and deep state politicians pushing this vaccine like crazy on the regular people. I'm going to be suspicious.
And they push a lot of it under the cover of wokeness. Like, it's like people think being woke is like being actually awake, and you're not. You're absolutely blind. And even if you are, like you said, back in the day, you thought you watch Spike Lee movies, you watch like all these movies that presented a message. You think you're so far aware of what's going on. How can you not see this?
But Chris, they right now we talking about CRT. So the NFL they want them to play the black national anthem and then I was like, this is more division. It's the same thing at school saying you're oppressed, you're not oppressed. Right. So why is America playing two national anthems, but that black national? I thought we was one people. We was
it's
America.
Crazy.
Imagine if Trump came out and said we should do that.
I know. We should do like the I don't know. Is there going to be an Italian American national anthem?
Keep going.
And then the Chinese, and then like a half Chinese, half Italian, like me national anthem, because I want my own national anthem. And let's talk about colleges. Let's talk about colleges right now that are segregating dorms. I don't know if you guys heard about this. I heard about this from an NYU professor that they actually have segregated dorms at NYU. Have you? Why?
I heard,
what?
Not only that, segregated graduation. The blacks got their own graduation, the whites got their. All of this stuff is going on. We are going backwards at 100 miles.
Like, how did this happen, though? What do you got? I mean, a serious question. Like, how did we go backwards? I feel like we were in a really good place, like 10 years ago or so. I don't even know. I just felt like we put a lot of the history of our history in the past. The races were coming together. It was the melting pot. And now all of a sudden it's all about race. It's all we hear about every day is race. Like, how did this happen?
Yeah. And Obama tipped the scale on that and brought it back when he was president. Yep. And that's when
he could have made it
to the surface.
We came to that point when Obama became president where that's why so many people voted for him, and you had all those rallies with white, blacks, people crying, everybody was because we felt, a lot of people, the people, especially me at that moment, felt like this guy's going to take Martin Luther King's message to the next level. We're not going anywhere near going backwards. We're going to go to another level that we never thought as America we could go. Like, this is going to be some new dimension that we're about to head to with this. And instead, Obama had that power and that ability to really do something and bring real, amazing, positive change to this country. But instead, he took that and he became shadow POTUS. He went behind and low key and doing all this stuff behind closed doors and used his powers and abilities to manipulate, to transform America, to divide America, and to use that to eventually conquer America. He is an evil communist. That's what Obama is. Right. And he's showing that's what he is. When I supported him, I backed away from him immediately because he wasn't fulfilling his campaign speeches and everything like that. But when I got older, I thought, he was a weak president. He didn't do anything. And then I studied him more. I'm like, no, he wasn't. He was weak. He wasn't doing anything. He was doing a lot. He was just doing a lot where you weren't watching. Right. And by the time he got out, and years after he left, we're still seeing the after effects of what he did.
He's still there. He hasn't gone.
That's why I call him Shadow POTUS. Shadow POTUS, I call him. That nickname for a reason. Right. Shadow POTUS.
Seriously, you guys. So you guys think that because we always say who's Biden's handler, who's like the Wizard of Oz pulling his strings.
Right.
You think it's Obama?
Yeah.
It is Obama.
And I want to throw Susan Rice in there as well.
Right.
Susan Rice.
Right. The whole clique there.
Yeah, the whole little clique.
It's a third term of President Obama. That's what I
like
voted for Obama the first time, and unlike you, Chris, I knew he was going to be absolutely no good, but I wanted to see a black president because we never had one. I voted skin color for the first time in my life. So that's the only reason I voted for Obama. The second time I did not vote for him. I was like, he is not the answer. But my grandmother was 98, and I definitely want her to see a black president before she passed away. She got a chance to see that, and thank God for that. And for no other reason, I voted for him because he was black. When he was doing all this screaming, when he was campaigning, I said, this man's going to do absolutely nothing for the black community. Those were my very words. And you can ask a business partner of mine in Atlanta that predicted that he was going to win. So, but after that, first 4 years, I voted for Rummy. He was another coward. I wish I could go back today and snatch my vote back from him.
But that's the thing. Like, people say, how'd you vote for Obama twice? I'm like, after 4 years of Obama, I was smart enough to say, okay, this guy, he's not it. I'll be willing to vote for a Republican if they give me a good one. They had Ron Paul first leading, and then the mainstream media came out and messed up Ron Paul's chances because they stopped saying the man's name on television. Right. Because no matter what place he placed in, first, second, third, they wouldn't say his name. And he fell off the polls. Then I said, okay, then Herman Cain stepped up, and he was the number one candidate at that moment. I was like, okay, he was like the black Trump to me at that time. He was a businessman. He's like, I'm not a career politician. I'm going to come in here and do what Washington can't do. I'm going to fix the economy as best I can. And I was like, okay, I like his message. And then when he started getting it, they brought the Me Too movement out before Me Too officially came out.
Right.
And I don't even think he did anything. I just think he just stepped away from it because of his business. And he says, I'm not going to go after these guys and still possibly lose the presidency and then not have a business. Right. So he's like, I'm just going to be, as a businessman, make the smart move and step away from this nonsense. And he did that. And the third one, and then, of course, I'm sorry, after that, they threw in Mitt Romney at me. And yeah, seriously, Mittens. Like that's all I can.
He's such a he's like the worst of the worst.
He is. He's a coward. And I tell people all the time, like, what do you expect me to do? My first time ever voting Republican in my life, vote for Mitt Romney? Like, come on, man. That's not the. What kind of answer would that be? Who was the first time you vote Republican? Who was for Mitt Romney?
Chris, you know who you said Trump. Actually, Trump didn't start that. It was Ross Perot. Ross Perot started. He was that guy. Ross was the guy, and I wanted him to win.
Now, if my dad was here right now, you would have him cracking up because he always tells this story. Because especially when I'm doing things politically, every time he's around, he brings us one story. In elementary school, we were doing the school vote. Mm-hmm. You know, in America, we do like the elementary school, we do vote and everything like that. I was in like second or third grade when Ross Perot was running. So they did the school vote, and they said, "Who you gonna vote for?" And I put down Ross Perot. And so the teacher kept coming up to me. He's like, "Chris, are you really going to pick Ross Perot?" And I was like, "Yeah, Ross Perot." And she came back 3 or 4 times, and she said, "Okay." And then my parents got a call out their work, and they were like, "Do you know your son just voted for Ross Perot in school?" And to this day, my dad brings that up, like, because he's going to do with Trump. He's like, "Well, he did vote for Ross Perot in elementary school."
Yeah, he was like a Trump. He was an outsider. I love that guy. I was like, man, this is how we do. We got to get him in there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he does, man. People are sick of that career politician, man. And look what the career politician has done to this country. Is it really worth it?
Exactly. I feel like there obviously has to be term limits, and there has to be guys like Derrick and people that are everyday, like all of the friends that we have running for office, like Tina Forty, like Mark. I love Mark for New York. All these people, like imagine New York State in this country, if really we get these type of people into office, it would be a different country, and a better country.
Yes. Right.
And I was going to tell you a story too regarding, because I know you said you voted for Obama because he was black. I was volunteering for the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Oh my God!
Because she was a female, and my it wasn't until like I didn't ever really.
Did you get to ride her broom?
No, I didn't. She has that. She had the most hooked up headquarters in Brooklyn. It was so high tech. I mean, they had these computers that dialed for you and like put you. There was like a computer, and then you see a map right in front of you, and it tells you exactly where the person is located that you're talking to, like what street they're on.
Did it show where the dead bodies were?
So high tech. But I said to myself, I didn't know anything at the time about politics until like Trump really got me activated. But with Hillary, I was like, you know what? All these men are so freaking evil. They're just all. Well, I knew she was evil, like you said. You knew Obama wasn't going to do anything, right? I know, right? All right,
what do you want on your tombstone? After you commit suicide?
Mike stepped.
I would never commit suicide. I'm just going to make that I'll go on the record and say that right now. But I did volunteer for the Hillary Clinton campaign because she was a female, and I said to myself, if the politicians are all evil, if there's going to be an evil one, could let her just be a female. I would like to have a female. I'm a female, and I know now looking back at it, I'm like, okay, what was I thinking? But then Trump came along, and I remember the moment I told you about this over the weekend that Trump won my heart was when he said in the debate, he was debating Jeb Bush, there were no weapons of mass destruction. Your brother lied. And I was like, oh my God, he has some freaking balls. Like this man is like, I was like, I couldn't believe he went there on this like it was in Bush's home territory.
It wasn't his home state. Remember because they booed him and he was like,
they booed
people were booing him or his campaign donors
Everyone
booing him.
was like, he just committed career suicide. And I was like, I love this guy. I can't believe he just went there. And then the next day he went up even more in the polls, and they said he was going to commit career suicide. So I'm like, I want to be like him. I want to double down. I want to speak out and say, I don't want to be afraid of saying how I feel anymore. Like maybe I could actually speak up and say how I feel and double down on it. You know what I mean? It was such a liberating thought to me that it just took me. I was still going to the Hillary Clinton campaign and making the calls, but I was like, not really feeling it. Like, are you going to vote for? Okay, bye. Like, click, and I felt like I kind of felt like a little bit of a traitor. So I eventually had to pull away. I'm like, all right, I quit, guys. And they just kept calling me up, like, are you coming back? I'm like, no, sorry, I'm working. And then I was like, let me volunteer for the Trump campaign immediately. But I was paranoid that they would think I was a spy. They would do some research and find out that I had been making calls for Hillary Clinton, and they'd be like, oh, she's a spy. But yeah, I don't know. That's my whole story. How I came over to the right side of things.
That's quite a walkway.
But let's move away from Hillary Clinton. I don't think.
I know we don't want to get in any trouble here.
I did not suicide myself, okay?
I did not suicide myself.
We are on camera saying this.
Yes, please. Insanity.
Oh, man.
So I guess we have to wrap this up, Derrick, if you have any last thoughts. But, thank you for coming, Chris.
No, it's always a pleasure.
You
Always
know?
here to support my fellow patriots in New York.
Yes.
You know what I mean? This is what we got to do. I'm always one to say, we got to unite. I got my CRA group. I founded that group to unity. I've been meeting up with different groups all around New York, all the way from before COVID to now. If I'm not going to just speak, I'm going to be about it. It's all about action. This is what hopefully people watch and see and learn from. It's one thing to get out there on social media and start talk your game and get your likes and your views and your shares. But at the end of the day, if you don't hit the streets, get out there and get your voice and get the action. Actions speak louder than words. And that's what the civil rights movement taught me. Martin Luther King Jr. taught me that. And that's who I base my way of moving.
And say something to the Republicans that don't want to come out of the House and support say something to them.
All right, if you, I don't call you a beta male. You're the soy boy. How about that?
Right, don't
man up. Get up and get out.
Get out.
Yeah.
We're out there. We need,
Right.
we need people with us. We are out there. We are pounding the streets. We need your help. We need you to get behind us. We need, we don't have Trump right now. We understand that, but we have to find the Trump within ourselves. Not to sound cheesy, but it's the truth.
But you do have Trump 2.0, and that is me. I'm running for New York. I'm running for New York State governor. I need your support. I don't take corporate money. Throw in $10, throw in $20, as much as you can throw in. They said some of the guys, I raised $4 million. I said, sure you did. You're taking corporate money, but I'm a voice for the people, so I don't take corporate money.
Hey.
So I need a few crumbs to get around the state and finish campaigning. If I get around the state and talk to the people, I automatically win by a landslide. Come on, people, go to Gibson. The number 4governor.com. Donate $10, donate $20, anything you can. Tell your friends, tell your neighbor Gibson is here. Let's take New York State back. Once we take New York State back, the rest of America will fall in line behind us. You'll see the great things that we're going to be doing here. And Cara is actually my campaign manager. Y'all can reach out to her. All her information is out there. She's very good. And people say, well, your campaign is not doing like other campaigns. So we don't intend to do it like that. We are something totally different.
What did you say when they said to you your campaign manager is a far right extremist? I mean, give me a break.
Right, right. And I laugh. I say,
far right extremist.
That's a compliment in 2021.
Right. And I say I'd rather have a far right than have anything to do with the left.
So definitely,
fired.
if anyone wants to volunteer for Derrick's campaign, go to Derrick. Go to GibsonForGovernor.com and also follow us all on Facebook. I am at Cara Castronuova. You could follow us there follow me there on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the other necessary evil social medias. I'm even on Telegram. Thought Villains is on Telegram. And go to my other website, citizensapp.us, Citizens Against Political Persecution. Follow us, follow Derrick, follow Chris, The Chris Wright Show.
Boom, boom. Yes,
Yeah.
you can follow the Christopher Wright Show. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, all them grams. You can find me there. And also, just a reminder for those in the New York area, if you are in Manhattan on August 1st, and that is going to be a Sunday from 5 to 7 p.m., I will be hosting my second United We Stand movement event. And I need the Patriots out there. So like I say, you guys are saying, hey, Chris, okay, I want to get out there. You convinced me, call me a beta. All right, man, I'll get out there. Well, where do I go? You can go there. And also, we have an event on the 25th of this month as well in Central Park at Bethesda Fountain, where we'll be out there
24th.
speaking. The 24th. I always get my dates
24th.
wrong. Thank you for
That's a Saturday. So that's
Saturday,
the
the
Medical Freedom Rally.
24th.
So we will all be there.
We will all be
As I
there.
said,
Right.
We show up.
And the time frame is 12 to 2 p.m.?
I think so.
Yes.
Or it might, we'll put up the flyer for that.
Yes.
And then the next one is the 25th, the Citizens Against Political Persecution. We will all be there as well.
Yes.
Derrick, last
Right,
words?
y'all come out to these rallies. I want to see y'all. I want to shake y'all hand. I want to do it. I want y'all to listen to me. I really have some things to say at these particular rallies. They are back to back, the 24th and the 25th. Follow me on Twitter, Gibson for New York State Governor. Follow me on Facebook, Derrick Gibson. Same on Instagram and LinkedIn. Follow me there, and let's come to these rallies. Let's make them a huge success so our voice can be heard. Let's fight for our brothers that is incarcerated in D.C. unfairly, aka the political prisoners of Joe Biden.
Biden's prisoners, the prisoners of the Democrat Party. Yes.
Right. So we got to do this, y'all. Y'all come out to Chris rally on August the 1st. I will be in the place. As everybody in New York State know, Chris is our most favorite conservative in New York State. Everybody knows. Every time
He's
I see this
famous.
guy, I smile and I give him a hug every time I see him because he's gangster, man. He's out there in New York City,
Yes,
completely blue. Talking about he's a Trump guy. So this guy is an idiot.
Ain't no snowflake over here out here. You know what I mean? We ain't melting out here.
And don't forget to like and subscribe and comment.
Right. Like to at Thought Villains on no. Follow at Thought Villains on Twitter, but like it on YouTube and subscribe. Let's get our followings up. Let's get the messages out. Let's do this thing. Go back to Gibson, the number 4governor.com, and let me get that donation so I can put some gas in my car and ride through the state. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
And that's right with a W.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.